Back now with breaking economic news. The October jobs report just out. According to the Labor Department, 150,000 jobs were added last month. That is less than the 170,000 that economists predicted. The unemployment rate now sits at 3.9%. That's up from the previous month and the highest we've seen in months. To break it down, we are joined, of course, by our economic dream team, NBC News business and data reporter Brian Cheung and Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Good morning to both of you. So, Brian, and not just less than what was expected, but less than last month, 336,000 jobs added in September. Break down some of the new data for October. What are we seeing? Yeah, well, it seems like the labor market is slowing a bit from the pace that we had seen earlier in the year. But again, let's contextualize the numbers. As you mentioned, 150,000 jobs added in the month of October. That is substantially less than the originally reported 336,000 jobs that were reported in September. But we have to remember the government relooks at the data and then revises them depending on whether or not they get new information. And they did say that there was only 297,000 jobs actually added in that month. Now, what we're also watching is the unemployment rate, which did take up to 3.9% in the month of October compared to 3.8% in the month prior. We saw unemployment go up across the board for all demographic groups. But again, you don't necessarily want to read too much into a 0.1% fluctuation, but it is interesting to see that this is indeed higher than the 3.4% figure we had seen at the beginning of the year. So, Caleb, what stands out to you? What's most important in these numbers?
Well, when we're looking sector to sector, and Brian will probably take us through that in more detail, you see a drop in manufacturing jobs of 35,000. 33,000 of those, Joe, were from the United Auto Workers being on strike. So you have that. Brian mentioned the revisions lower for September, down 39,000. August was also revised lower to about 62,000. Still a very strong labor market, just not as strong as we thought it was. And we also saw a little uptick in average hourly earnings. That's the thing the Fed is keeping a close eye on. Those wages are driving prices up. Those only rose 0.2% at about a 4.1% annual rate.
All right, we'll have Brian break down the categories. What stands out, specific areas here?
Yeah, Caleb teeing me up quite nice here. If we're talking about the specific industries that we're watching here, leisure and hospitality, this is the industry that's been driving a lot of the job gains in the previous months, adding 19,000 in the month, so still chugging on all cylinders here. Motor vehicles and parts, again, with that UAW strike being reflected largely in this month, did contract by about 33,000 in the month. And retail trade, very interesting to see that actually hiring at the malls did slow in this month. Only 700 jobs added in the month. Again, this is ahead of a key retail season. Maybe the November jobs report will reflect a little bit more ahead of Black Friday, but interesting to see that hiring has slowed in that sector.
All right, so we talk about the auto workers strike. With that over now, does that make a big difference moving forward? And then what else should we be watching out for as we head into the holidays?
Yeah, retail trade is important because retailers should be staffing up for the holiday season. What's interesting also in this report, 1.6 million part-time jobs have been added since July, while we've had a decrease of almost 700,000 full-time jobs. So a lot of part-time hiring going on. That could be a seasonal trend as we go into the holidays. We'll keep a close eye on that as well. And then we want to keep an eye on that unemployment rate. 3.9% is still low. That's within the Fed's range. It likes it right there, the sweet spot. If that creeps up in the next few months, that could be a telltale sign that the economy will be slowing next year.
So, Brian, overall, what does this new jobs report say about just the current state of the labor market?
Yeah, well, it's not just the amount of jobs that we're adding. We also have to take a look at how much people in those jobs are getting paid. Now, when we talk about average hourly earnings, it went up by 4.2% in September of this year compared to September of last year. That pace slowed to 4.1% in the month of October. Again, looking at a yearly rate here. But what's interesting is that we're still seeing wages as of the last few months outpacing the rate of inflation. So things at the store getting expensive by 3.7%. That coming from another government report known as the Consumer Price Index, which we'll get an update on in about a week and a half, where I imagine you'll probably have the economic dream team back.
All right. Always. Brian Cheung, Caleb Silver, thank you so much. Good to see you both.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.